As the new decade dawns, we take a look back at the previous decade of Leicester City Football Club, of the highs and lows and the tragedy and the emotions and the ride of the champions of England. This is the decade of the Foxes. At the start of the decade in 2010, Leicester City Football Club were owned by Serbian businessman Milan Mandaric. At the end of 2007, Milan Mandaric appointed Ian Holloway as manager of Leicester City Football Club, getting them relegated for the first time in the club's history to League One. And then Nigel Pearson was appointed manager of that campaign going into League One, being crowned champions of League One on the 18th of April 2009, going into the decade of 2010. Following promotion to the Championship in 2009-2010 season, Nigel Pearson was very close to a successive promotion the following season, where Leicester City finished 5th in the Championship table going into the playoffs and were knocked out by Cardiff City in the playoff semi-finals on penalties, which, if you remember, was Yanni Kermogrant and that ridiculous chip. And despite 2 successful seasons at Leicester City Football Club with a League One title and a playoff semi-final to his name, Milan Mandaric actually appointed a new manager, Paulo Sousa, replacing Nigel Pearson of that summer. Nigel Pearson's relationship with Milan Mandaric wasn't the best anyway, and with an invitation of the King Power brand coming into the club behind closed doors and behind Nigel Pearson's back, as well as Paulo Sousa, it was only a matter of time before something gived. As Sousa became the new manager of Leicester City, owner Milan Mandaric stated that he was delighted to acquire a manager of such great calibre, adding he was the right man to take our club forward. But only 3 months in charge, Sousa was fired by Leicester City after a poor start to the season, with the team having only won once in its first 9 league games. During August 2010, the 3-year shirt sponsorship deal with King Power, Milan Mandaric finally sold the club to the Asian Football Investments, owned by the King Power Group's Vichai Srivaddhanaprabha. On the acquisition of Leicester City Football Club, Mr. Ayawat, his son, was appointed as vice chairman. The first mission is to prepare the 130-year-old club for a long-term stability and success by initiating changes in the club's operations and business structures through substantial investments. These included renovations to the training fields and facilities, new sports science and technical analysis, and the recruitment of new management, coaching teams and players, along with the development of the LCFC Academy for young talent. In the first year of the King Power's ownership, the club embarked on a tour of Thailand with its first team players, culminating in a friendly match against the Thai national team held at the National Stadium on the 9th of October 2010. And as the Foxes sat in relegation zone of the Championship after the sacking of Paul Sousa, Leicester City appointed manager Sven-Göran Eriksson in October of 2010. And although Sven-Göran Eriksson only spent 1 calendar year at the club from October to October, he did spend rather big and included some big names and heavy hitters such as Yakubu, Jermaine Beckford, and also signed David Nugent, Paul Konchesky and also Kasper Schmeichel. Regardless of spending big and signing some key players, Sven-Göran Eriksson could only finish 13th position in the league, 2 points on from a playoff position, and left with mutual consent with the club. And Milan Mandaric also departing from the club, Nigel Pearson was persuaded to rejoin Leicester City under the new ownership of Kun Vichai, and after days of negotiations he was finally reappointed as manager on the 15th of November 2011, with Leicester sitting 12th in the Championship. In 2012, one of the key Leicester City players of the current generation signed for the club, when Leicester City broke a record of signing a non-league player with a reported fee of over £1 million. The next day, Jamie Vardy signed a 3-year contract until June 2015, making his debut against Torquay United in the first round of the League Cup, playing the entirety of the match and heading the final goal in a 4-0 win for the Foxes. Who would have thought that a £1 million player from non-league football would have turned into such an asset for a club? And as Nigel Pearson's return to the club ensured that Leicester would finish 6th in the Championship that season, going into the Championship playoffs against Watford, and we all know what happened from there. As Anthony Knockaert missed that vital penalty to send Leicester into the finals, the ball was cleared up top and Troy Deeney broke the hearts of the Leicester faithful.
With the very last kick of this playoff semi-final, Troy Deeney wins it for Watford and sends them to Wembley.
As hurtful as the result was for Leicester, the target was Premier League or bust, signing key player Riyad Mahrez from French side Le Havre. Scout Steve Walsh was monitoring his teammate Ryan Mendes, but was instead impressed by Mahrez. Funnily enough, Mahrez had never heard of Leicester City. He initially presumed to be a rugby club, aka the Leicester Tigers. But nonetheless, on the 11th of January 2014, he signed a 3.5-year contract, making his debut on the 25th of January 2014, coming on a 79th minute as a substitute, replacing Lloyd Dyer in a 2-0 win against Middlesbrough. And with that playoff semi-final still in the back of their minds, Leicester bounced back as they completely annihilated the Championship with a record points total of 102 points in 2013-14 season. The Foxes roared to the Championship title in style, losing only once in 22 matches to achieve promotion back to England's top flight for the first time in a decade, where they still remain now. David Nugent getting the top goals of 22 that season. Leicester City were without doubt the best team in the Championship that season. With the ambitions in sight from the King Power brand, Leicester City finally securing top flight football for the first time in 10 years, and not forgetting some key signings this season, including ex-Man United defender Danny Simpson, Aston Villa's Marco Brighton, and record signing at the time Leonardo Ulloa for £9 million from Brighton. And with a remarkable signing of footballing legendary player Esteban Cambiasso, the Foxes was set for a cracking season on return to top flight. This season is actually known better as the Great Escape season, for Leicester narrowly missing relegation back down into the Championship. City started the 2014-15 campaign with a 2-2 draw against Everton after Chris Wood's late equaliser. While back-to-back wins in September saw them beat Stoke 1-0, and before the sensational 5-3 victory over Manchester United, as the Jamie Vardy's having a party chant goes into full effect. 14 matches later, however, with no wins, Riyad Mahrez finally getting a winning goal against Hull City on 28th of December 2014. Leicester being bottom of the table at Christmas and struggling all the way to April, and with 9 games to go, Leicester needed to dig deep, and they did. With a run of 7 wins from the 9 games, Leicester secured their Premier League status with a game to play before running riot in a 5-1 victory against QPR on the final day of the season. This was truly the greatest of great escapes. And as Leicester City survive in one of the greatest escapes of the Premier League era, they give farewell to one of their favourites that season, Esteban Cambiasso, as he does not extend his contract for a further season with the club and departs ways. However, with Nigel Pearson escaping relegation, even though being bottom at Christmas and finishing 14th place, he lost his job for the very last time at Leicester City Football Club. With being quite a controversial character, Nigel Pearson placing his hands around Crystal Palace midfielder James McArthur's neck, that moment with the Leicester fan telling them to F off, and the Ostritch moment in the press conference.
The answer to that question, and I think you are an ostrich. Well, your head must be in the sand.
This time, however, his sacking was to do with his son James Pearson's role in the alleged racist sex tape made by 3 other Leicester City reserve players in Thailand during the post-season tour. And with Nigel Pearson's son involved in the scandal, the relationship between Nigel Pearson and the board was no longer viable, as Nigel Pearson departed ways to make way for a new manager. Many managers were linked with the job, but only one man got the position, which was Claudio Ranieri, who had just been sacked by the Greece national side for his loss against the Faroe Islands in 2014. And what was even funnier was the media picking Ranieri as the first manager to be sacked in the Premier League that season. We all know how that turned out. And with new management came new players. Shinji Okazaki coming in for £9 million from FSV Mainz, scoring some wonder goals in the Bundesliga. A 2-time Premier League champion at the time, Robert Hoof from Stoke City for £4 million. Experienced Austrian left-back Christian Fuchs from FC Schalke on a free transfer. And probably the biggest who's that guy, N'Golo Kante from French League One side SM Caen for £8 million. Probably the biggest key signing of the season, and without doubt one of the greatest players to wear the Leicester City shirt. Leicester's season started with some big wins and some huge comebacks, including that one against Villa, where Leicester's official liaison steward Jim famously celebrated as Leicester came back and won in dramatic fashion. This season is cram-packed full of special moments. One of those moments in particular was a record breaker, as Jamie Vardy broke the consecutive goals in the Premier League of Ruud van Nistelrooy's record against Manchester United in a 1-1 draw at the King Power Stadium.
This is the left back, Fuchs. The ball in behind Damian Vardy! It's 11! It's heaven for Jamie Vardy! Hold the back page, hold the front page, and Leicester player has smashed the record!
Not forgetting Robert Hoof's header against Tottenham Hotspur with a 1-0 away win. That Jamie Vardy wonder strike against Liverpool at the King Power, probably one of his best goals ever in a Leicester shirt. Riyad Mahrez terrorising the Sky Blues at the Etihad Stadium, and many others that we just can't squeeze into the video. With Leicester only needing a win at Old Trafford to secure the Premier League title, they could only produce a draw as we waited on the Spurs and Chelsea result the following night. Tottenham, knowing they must win to remain in the title race, it got off to a perfect start as they got 2 goals before half-time. But Chelsea came back in the second half, shattering any hopes and dreams of the Tottenham Hotspur fans, as Eden Hazard hits the equaliser, immortalising Leicester City into the history books as Premier League champions. Leicester became the media city of England and the party city of the world. That week, Leicester fans flocked to the Victoria Park parade. Over 350,000 crammed into Victoria Park for the concert. What a week, what a ride, what a story. And going into the next season as champions, but also having for the very first time Champions League football.
We are in Champions League, man.
That was my next
Dilly din, dilly dong, come on.
And what a Champions League it was. Michael Brighton opening the first ever Leicester goal in the competition. And with Leicester securing first place in the group stages going into the round 16 of the competition, drawing Sevilla. However, losing the first leg, Claudio Ranieri was sacked the very next day. The legendary Italian manager, winning the Premier League title for Leicester City, was only 1 point above the relegation zone with 13 matches left to play. It's probably taking his eye off of the ball because of Champions League football. Leicester underperforming in the Premier League was no coincidence, with N'Golo Kante leaving the club at the start of the season to Chelsea for £33 million. And not forgetting some of the poor signings, including Islam Slimani, Ahmed Musa, Luis Hernandez and Ron Robert Zyler. However, Leicester get through the next round by beating Sevilla 2-0 at home on aggregate 3-2 and get drawn with Spanish giants Atletico Madrid in the quarter-finals of the Champions League. And with losing 1-0 in Spain, the atmosphere was electric at the King Power Stadium. Roaring on the Foxes to try and get a win, Leicester could only manage a draw 1-1 and got knocked out in the quarter-finals. And after a good run of results in the Premier League, caretaker manager Craig Shakespeare was appointed as the first team manager on the 12th of March. And with Shaky avoiding relegation and finishing 12th in the Premier League, Leicester could focus on the next season. And during the summer, following N'Golo Kante to Chelsea, Danny Drinkwater signs for the club for £34 million too. The 17-18 campaign has some very key important signings, including Kelechi Iheanacho for £25 million, Vincent Iborra and Harry Maguire. Another impactful part of this campaign is the under-23 players Hamza Chowdhury, Harvey Barnes and Wilfred Ndidi joining the senior squad. However, the campaign didn't start well, as Craig Shakespeare was sacked on the 17th of October after poor performances left the club in the bottom three of the Premier League in danger of relegation again. And only a week later, Leicester appoint Claude Puel in charge of his first game on the 29th of October as they beat Everton 2-0. And a massive decision by Claude Puel to block Riyad Mahrez's transfer to Man City on the January transfer deadline day resulted in Mahrez going absent from training for 10 days as well. And though Claude Puel climbed up the Premier League table to 9th position, the fans accused him of negative football, and that never really truly went away while he was at Leicester City. The 2018-19 season starts with the summer departure of Riyad Mahrez, finally getting his move to Man City for a record fee of £60 million. And with the massive departure of Riyad Mahrez, Leicester City signed some interesting players, with key Belgium signing Yuri Tillemans from AS Monaco on loan, Johnny Evans for £3.5 million, international centre-back Kaglar Soyuncu for £19 million, Porto's right-back Ricardo Pereira 20, and big signing James Maddison from Norwich for £22.5 million this season. Unfortunately, the footballing aspect of this season really isn't that important, because Leicester City lost their owner, their chairman, the boss, Vichai, in a tragic accident on the 27th of October of 2018 when his helicopter crashed outside the King Power Stadium after the game against West Ham at home on the King Power. Leicester grieved. We all grieved. I grieved. Making this part of the video was a difficult part of the decade. I'm already losing. I'm not going to edit this either. He changed the club. He changed everything. He came in at the start of this video you've seen. He came in with a philosophy of changing this club, and he did. He did just do that. He didn't just change a club. He changed the rules. The impossible dream came reality. He made all football fans believe that they can do the impossible, and that's the most important part, I think, of the decade. Was Vichai had a dream, and he gave us all a dream, and dream came reality. I'm just going to leave you with a few photos of around that time, and yeah, Leicester. We became news again for all the wrong reasons this time. From the 2016 champions winning the Premier League to this, it was horrible. It was a horrible time for the club, and the footballing world put their arms around us, and well, you can see in these photos here. It was nice to see Claudio Ranieri with Claude Puel as well as Nigel Pearson all together on the fixture at home at the King Power. It was an emotional day, that. It was an emotional day. There was a big walk as well organised by the fans called the Walk for Vichai, which is an annual thing now, every year. At the same sort of time, around this time, fans walk from Jubilee Square in the city centre to the King Power Stadium as an organised thing, raising money for charity to go to Vichai's foundation, which formerly was called the Foxes Foundation, which has done many things, including putting money into the Leicester Royal Infirmary Children's wards and many great things around the city as well. Such a loss for the city. The rest of the season, Leicester lost an FA Cup clash with Newport County in the third round, and Claude Puel was also sacked, and in stepped Brendan Rodgers from Celtic. And what a signing it was. Brendan Rodgers being at Celtic, and he was about to have potentially a treble winning season with Celtic. Historic club, massive club, and he just leaves to come to Leicester, and then was announced as the manager on the 26th of February 2019, winning his first game at home with a struggling Fulham, Jamie Vardy getting his 100th goal for the club in the match as well. And although Leicester could have slumped to the bottom of the table with the tragedy, and although not really important, Leicester do finish 9th in the Premier League table and get Premier League football for another season and go into 2019-20. With a fresh start. As the season approaches, Manchester United purchased Harry Maguire from Leicester City Football Club for a staggering, eye-watering fee of £80 million, becoming the world's most expensive defender of all time. Meanwhile, Leicester City announced a new £100 million state-of-the-art training facility to replace the facilities we already have at Beaver Drive. And the club moved for the permanent signing of Youri Tielemans after his successful loan spell at the club for £40 million from AS Monaco. However, the biggest piece of news for Leicester City fans during the summer before the season was Kun Iwat being announced chairman of Leicester City Football Club, succeeding his father, the late Vichai Srivaddhanath Papa. He will continue to lead the club in the pursuit of a vision he and his father began at the start of the decade with Leicester City. We all thank you so much for everything you've done for this club, and we can't wait to see how far we can progress, how far we've got, and where we are right now on the making of this video. We are second in the Premier League, underneath Liverpool. How far can Leicester go? Will we get another Champions League spot? Will we get more Wednesday nights under the lights? Only time will tell, but I know one thing. It's been a decade of the Foxes. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked the video. Please share, please subscribe to the channel, and above all else, stay 100% LCFC. We'll see you soon. Take care.